Hello and welcome to our latest Business Spotlight interview. I'm delighted to be joined today by Julie Furnell from Mobilityways. Julie, lovely to have you with us. Thank you for joining.
Lovely to be here, Jenny. Thank you.
Good stuff. Why don't you kick us off by telling us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, so Mobilityways was almost born out of the pandemic. So within our suite, we have a lift share platform. And obviously through the global pandemic, unfortunately, everyone was told to not share cars, not get in the vehicle with someone else. Now, our vision has always been around making the commute net zero. So zero carbon commuting is our vision. And if anything, the pandemic aided us to accelerate that vision to form Mobilityways. So we're actually Mobilityways Limited. And what we do is provide managed climate tech, so with a layer of consultancy to support businesses to achieve their net zero goals. Our focus is the commute, and the commute is one of the easiest wins in our opinion, because it's about influencing your employees to do something different, travel more sustainably to work. And the way in which we enable that is through our platform, where you can measure, reduce and report on your employee carbon emissions. So to put that into perspective, the commute is one of the least efficient journeys you'll ever take. It basically contributes to 5% of all emissions, and we really do see it as critical to achieve net zero goals.
Absolutely. I mean, that figure is incredible in and of itself, isn't it? 5%. What do you think the change in behaviour has been as a result of the pandemic?
Well, I mean, a win really in terms of what we're trying to do, because you've got more people working from home, which means that we've got less cars on the road. However, we are seeing a shift back to pre-pandemic times. I mean, I don't know about you and your potential commute to work, but there's a lot more traffic and congestion forming again locally around the city. And so, you know, we're just trying to make sure that everybody knows that there is a more sustainable way in which they can commute, which isn't driving alone.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about the services you provide as part of that solution.
So initially, it's a very data-driven solution. We will come into an organisation and work with one or many of their sites and just analyse how their employees are travelling. So that's the first thing. How are people travelling today? And then we'll also run an exercise to understand how they could be travelling tomorrow more sustainably. So the potential opportunity for behaviour shift, basically, in terms of mode of transport. So the data is key to giving that insight to organisations to then enable them to do something about it and form an implementation plan. And that implementation plan is done alongside us. We have an ecosystem of partners that we can introduce that are like-minded in terms of sustainable travel solutions and mobility solutions. And we will measure throughout the life of the relationship how we are reducing the tons of CO2e that commute is emitting from that organisation.
Fantastic. So who's your ideal client, Julie?
I mean, ultimately, we're never going to reach zero carbon commuting if all businesses don't do something. However, what we've tried to do initially is focus on the large employers that can make the biggest impact the quickest. So large employers, potentially a lot of employees travelling to one site or across multiple sites. Whether that be rural or urban, it doesn't matter. It's about trying to get the commute to be a more sustainable journey. But alongside that, we work with many organisations who, yes, the sustainability piece is there, but they also want to focus on their recruitment and retention. So how can they be getting high calibre of candidates to their location who might not necessarily drive? You know, there's transport poverty. We've had big issues with the cost of living. and petrol costs and pricing. So, you know, how can we be supporting real life problems with our solutions? And so that's ultimately, yeah, the sort of organisations we want to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. And how did you get into the business in the first place?
So I am not born and bred in Norwich, but I've lived here the majority of my life, definitely grown up. So I am a SME kind of person. I like the culture, I like the environment, I like the ability to be agile in a small business. And so, yeah, just being local and in Norwich, LiftShare stood out to me as it was formerly known when I joined 5 years ago. Stood out to me as a company that was ticked a lot of boxes for me, but also the biggest thing was it meant that I could do something that actually was important to the planet, to my children. It was going to make a difference to the world that they live in, and climate change is a real thing. So that's why this company stood out to me a lot.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And what for you do you find is the best thing about running the business?
It has to be the people. I mean, we're doing something great, which is great for me in terms of a legacy that I can leave for my children and my children's children. But it's the people that I get to work with every day. They really are an amazing bunch of people. And, you know, in the new world that we all live in, we've actually got quite a few remote workers who are up north or right down Cornwall way. And so, you know, we take as many opportunities as we can to bring everyone together. And when we do, it's just the knowledge and the expertise in our industry that we have. You know, we have graduates that have come from environmental science degrees, and they're really passionate about what we do. And it's just, yeah, it's a great group of people to work with. And the culture for me and the environment that they work in is really important.
Yeah, definitely. And this may be hard to pick just one, but what would you say is your biggest learning since you've been running the business?
I think the biggest thing, and I've often heard that your next career move should scare you. But I think the biggest learning for me is just to have a bit more confidence, about decisions and what you're doing, and that you are setting a plan that means something to people, that you can get people on board with, and that you can drive in with confidence. And I think that's the key thing for me. I think I've struggled with confidence from a young age, and I think through working hard and being tenacious and trying to always do the right thing. Obviously, everyone makes mistakes along the way with that, but trying to do the right thing, I think that's built my confidence over time. And that's one of the key things for me. Have a bit more confidence in what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And look where it's taken you, and all of the amazing people that you're reaching through the work you're doing as a result. What would you say are the biggest challenges facing the business right now?
I mean, our biggest competitor, in all honesty, is businesses doing nothing. They don't prioritise net zero. They don't prioritise the quick wins. And they don't see it as a priority. And I think that's a big challenge that we have in terms of getting the story and the message across to businesses about how important it is to do something today, and not to leave it until 2030 or 2040 when, you know, time is running out. We
Absolutely.
don't have the luxury of time with the problems that we're facing with climate change.
And so I suppose part of that view is the goal of spreading the message, as well as working with people directly, but sharing the importance of what it is that you do.
Absolutely. And I think you can't underestimate the power of people. If there's one person who is passionate about this, that sits within an organisation, they can make a difference by being a champion for sustainability and driving that into their business.
Absolutely. So you've talked a little bit about confidence and about your own journey with confidence and how that's something that you've worked on. What advice would you give to your 18-year-old self if you were to rewind time?
Probably trust the journey. life takes many different paths, and you know, a lot of it is down to decision making, but I'm a firm believer of everything happens for a reason as well. So I think trust the journey. When things seem like, you know, it's the end of the world, it's probably not.
Yeah, absolutely. And trust the journey. What has that led you into, perhaps, that you may have been surprised by about the direction that either your career's taken or the business has taken?
Yeah, so in my previous career, I worked for a local business that went through acquisition. So there was 6 of us on the board that went through that process, being purchased by a big American conglomerate. That was really hard work, but worth every penny. 9 times out of 10, you know, the board tends to be the people that aren't retained for the longest period of time. But for me, it was making sure that the team were secure and had opportunities ahead of them. And so for me, the trials and tribulations of going through that journey with a business and then coming out the other end and then being like, right, what do I do now? Everything turns out the way it's meant to. I'm now MD of a business that I'm really passionate about, where again, I'm leading people and making sure people are secure and being prosperous, and that's a good outcome in my book.
It certainly is, absolutely. So thinking about that journey and trusting the journey, if you were to give any advice to someone who's hoping to get into a similar role, running a business in that MD type of role, what words of advice, what lessons would you share with them to give them courage and motivation to really go for it themselves?
I think it's a lot to do with behaviours, in all honesty, and I think that's what we've embedded really well into Mobilityways. I think if you have the right behaviours within your work life, you will get to where you want to get to. So we have club values. So that's about being customer obsessed, learning fanatic, united, and bar raiser. And I think that for me embodies the behaviours that you would expect to see from someone going through a journey. Experience helps when you have to, go through a number of different things in your work life, and you gain that experience. You might get things wrong, but actually you learn from it and you make the right call the next time when that crops up again. So I think for me, it's behaviours and experience is key. If you can get those right, I feel like you can get to wherever you want to get to.
That's excellent. A wonderful way to sum it up. Thank you. So before we wrap up, Julie, if anyone is interested in finding out more about Mobilityways, how they can get involved with what it is you're doing, what's the best way for people to find out more?
So we have a website. You can go to mobilityways.com. We also surface anyone who's looking for a career in sustainability. We have many roles. We're growing. We've got a really ambitious 5-year growth plan ahead of us. So anyone who's also looking for opportunities there, do get in touch that way. And then for businesses, I think it's, do the right thing. Think about the sustainability within your business, within your supply chain, within your employees and how they commute, and get in touch and we can give them a lot more information.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Julie. It's been an absolute pleasure meeting with you today. And I wish you all the very best for the future growth of Mobilityways and look forward to continuing to see that success grow over the coming years. Thank you so much.
Thank you.